Hello everybody, welcome back to The Contrarian. For those of you who are new to this channel, my name is Logan. I really like to talk about overall success in investing, and most of all investing in such a way that outperforms the crowd in the long term, which fundamentally means you have to do abnormal things at times, which is why I like to call this channel The Contrarian, because at times I take fairly unpopular stances. And as you'll see, one of the unpopular stances that I took about 6 months ago was explaining just all of the headwinds that China and the Chinese economy had coming up. And at the time when I made that video, I got a lot of pushback saying that no, China is the next up-and-coming superpower. They're going to easily surpass the United States. My primary story has to do with Evergrande and their recent disclosure that investors in Evergrande will face at least a 75% loss, if not more than that. So 75% is supposedly now the base case a loss for investors in Evergrande, and this is a big update. Up until now, we really didn't know how severe this was going to be. Was it going to be a restructuring? How was this really going to play out? Were investors actually going to lose anything was the main question, and it does appear now that this is going to be much worse than we originally thought. It's going to be at least a 75% loss for investors, and it could be even more than that. This is not even addressing the thought of, if Evergrande is not bailed out at all, what happens? And so because of this, there's been a lot of protests and social unrest in China, just with regards to the second largest property developer essentially, saying that they can't pay their workers and essentially indicating that there's really no cash left at the company. And this is really big because Lehman Brothers, when it went under in 2007, had a market cap of roughly $60 billion. Evergrande has a market cap of roughly $300 billion, so it's about 5 times larger than Lehman Brothers. So this is a big deal. So if Evergrande does end up going under completely, it could end up being a major event, not just for China, but for the globe. So the main question to answer now, and I don't know that I can completely answer it right now, just based off the information yet, is, what happens to the United States or the rest of the developed world if Evergrande and this whole situation continues to escalate? And I would say that number one, simply due to China still being the major supply source of the world, with a lot of supply chains located in China, I would say that supply issues are going to become increasingly more awful than they have already been. So unfortunately, I don't think that things are going to improve with regards to that. Already we've had reported stories of large suppliers who manufacture their goods in China, who import them to the United States, such as Walmart and Amazon. We've had stories from them saying that they have supposedly hundreds of containers worth of supplies in China, but they supposedly cannot find enough containers to move them to the United States. So there's all sorts of issues with regards to the containers themselves, with the ships, simply with the labor shortages that are present in the United States of unloading everything, and it's just a big mess right now with regards to supply chain, and it has been for the last year or more. But with Evergrande, I would say that there's the potential for that to get a lot worse, simply with now more issues arising in China itself and the potential for the supply chains in China to become even more disrupted than they already are. So basically this ties back into what I was saying earlier in the video, in that I do think China has a lot of headwinds that are just beginning, with regards mainly to the social societal issues in China itself. I'm not necessarily just referring to COVID and everything that has been. I'm more so referring to the changing sentiment within the Chinese people, the changing actions of the CCP, and just with regards to the social unrest that I think is just getting started in China. I don't think that is going to go away very easily, or I would be impressed if it does. But I just do think that China is likely not the upcoming superpower that takes over the United States. It does also have to do with demographics, and also what can be seen with Evergrande is that the financial system in China is essentially what the United States was back in 2007. There's Evergrande, and there's likely many others. We also saw Archegos Capital earlier this year go under, even while the stock market was, performing magnificently. So I don't think that bodes well for the financial system that is supporting China. If anything, it shows that there's a lot more weakness there than potentially even the United States, which, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of over leveraged hedge funds here as well, I'm sure, but if anything, it might have been the case where 2007 kind of encouraged our banks to be a bit more cautious, and it kind of took the hit then as opposed to now. So maybe now it's more China's turn to face a deleveraging event in their banking system. So all of this being said, I wish I could give more of a concrete answer as to what the global ramifications of Evergrande could be. I just do see that a supply chain disruption could be even worse because of that, but that's really all I have to say. Another update I'll briefly talk about that doesn't necessarily pertain to this is that Michael Burry is back on Twitter. He's reactivated his account. There's not really anything notable that he has said yet, so I'm not going to talk about anything that he has particularly talked about, but you can go take a look at his Twitter account if you want. So all that being said, if you guys have any thoughts about this, don't be afraid to comment about it down in the comment section, and I hope to see you again at some point.